One time on Hinge, I matched with a screenwriter. Talk about WGA and SAG-AFTRA solidarity, am I right? You know, he had a very dark academia vibe, which I was into. So I took a chance there, and he was like, if you have a good taste in movies, I'll like you. And so we matched, and I think I said something along the lines of, would it upset you if I told you my favorite movie is Trolls World Tour? And he unmatched me. I'm still getting used to this camera settings, and I work 9 to 5, so if the light's not great, I have lights. This is just what we're working with, though. Actually really excited about what we're talking about today. I have this video on TikTok where I kind of talked about it at first, but now I want to go a little more in depth because I think it's worth it. So today we're talking about Trolls 2, otherwise known as Trolls World Tour. Hi, my name is... Oh, that's not my intro. Welcome or welcome back to Mia Likes Movies. My name is Mia and I do like movies. Guess what, guys? We're actually talking about an actual movie today, like my channel name. So buckle in. I don't know how long this is because this is only slightly scripted. I'm trying a hybrid effect here. But I talked a little bit about it on my Mia Likes Movies TikTok channel several months ago. I want to talk about why I think Trolls World Tour is one of the best children's movie of all time. But truly, the purpose of the movie is to communicate this really large, overarching issue to children, to educate them younger. We'll get into it. But before we get started, go ahead and like and subscribe and press the bell icon. Do it for Branch. Do it for Branch. Don't do it for Justin Timberlake, but do it for Branch, okay?
Okay, people, here we go!
If you're familiar with the Trolls franchise, as in the movies, they are based on the old kids' toy, the Trolls, those ugly little guys with the really colorful hair that you could like twist with your fingers, are based on that, but they kind of got a redesign for the movie. And I honestly don't know why they thought to bring it back, but I'm not complaining. 2016 was when the first Trolls movie came out. The original Trolls, right, was actually not too much about the Trolls. I didn't even watch Trolls 1 before I watched Trolls 2. They're two very different movies. Trolls 1 is actually more about these creatures known as Bergens, which are kind of like ogres. Bergens are very sad. It's like part of Bergen culture to be sad. And not that they celebrate sad, because celebration would mean happy. Someone discovered that if they ate a troll, it would become happy, because the trolls are basically like an embodiment of happiness, and so eating a troll would make them happy. One Bergen discovered this and they shared it with everyone, and then they have this annual celebration called Trollstice, where they go down to the troll tree in the middle of Bergen Town or whatever. They pick some trolls like off the tree, because that's where they live, and they eat them. That's the setup and premise of the first Trolls movie. Really, the first Trolls movie is all about like acceptance and realizing that it's okay to be happy. You know, you don't have to give in to your sadness. There are other ways to be happy than looking for an outside source for happiness. You can find happiness from within. It's really sweet, but it's definitely a different movie from Trolls 2, Trolls World Tour.
And that was that. Pretty cute, right?
Trolls World Tour came out in 2020, so a 4-year difference is actually, I feel like, a pretty long time for a sequel to come out for an animated film that's specifically targeted towards children. If you know the movie, you can tell that they put a lot of work and care into it, so I think it makes sense that it took time to make it. From a capitalist standpoint, that's a long time in between movies if you're just trying to make money, because they are trying to make money, because it is tied to toys, and anything that's tied to a toy is trying to make money. One thing though that I want to mention before we start is that Trolls World Tour only has a 6.1 rating on IMDb, and in my honest opinion, this is an absolute crime against humanity. This is so underrated. A 6.1, it definitely deserves at least a 7. I think that people were expecting like a direct sequel to Trolls 1 where it was more about the Bergens again, but I don't care about the Bergens. I didn't care about the Bergens. Maybe I'm biased, but I don't care. Trolls World Tour or Trolls 2, I'll use them interchangeably, okay? I've decided I'm using both. So Trolls 2 came out in April of 2020, which, as we all know, was the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. It also led to a time where the Black Lives Matter movement was really put to the forefront of the collective consciousness of America and the world. I bring this up because it's a really important cultural context to Trolls World Tour. Trolls World Tour isn't a direct reaction to that zeitgeist. It happened to actually fall in line with that zeitgeist, which I find really interesting, because it does show that the creators of Trolls, or Trolls 2 specifically, were really on the pulse with what America was talking about, especially in the arts and music communities, as far as where credit is due. Just stay with me, all right? This is important context. So the trailers did market Trolls 2 as a direct sequel to Trolls 1, but with more of a focus on the world and culture of the Trolls, because like I said, the original Trolls movie was more about the Bergens. And although they did market the original Trolls movie about the Trolls, it wasn't about the Trolls, and they did that because who gives a shit about the Bergens? Like, what are the Bergens? But now this movie is only about the Trolls. The Bergens aren't really in it. We're moving past that part of the Trolliverse? Trolls universe?
Poppy, how'd you like the sushi?
The premise of this movie is that there are 6 kind of tribes of trolls, and each are related to a different genre of music. Trolls that we had previously been introduced to in Trolls 1 are actually known as the pop trolls, which is why a lot of the music in the first movie is pop music. Their culture and connection with the world around them in the Trolls verse is specifically seen through the lens of that music and what that music kind of represents in the vibe of the music, for lack of a better word. So the pop trolls, like Poppy, who is really like the quintessential pop troll, is that they're happy, fun, bright, and all about connecting with other people and having fun, because that's what pop music is, right? It's not too serious, it's fun, and it's to have a good time and party. So those are the pop trolls, like Poppy and Branch. And Poppy and her friends are all known as the Snack Pack, is what I learned on the Trolls wiki. So we have pop trolls, and then we have rock trolls, classical, country, funk, and techno trolls. It's an absolute jump scare when you get to the techno troll scene, because fucking Philip Schuyler is in it. What's his name?
One more time.
I'm showing my Hamilton fandomness, and I don't need to. The main antagonist of the Trolls 2 movie is Barb. Barb is the queen of the rock trolls. The rock trolls are all really direct and grunge, and they're planning, and Barb is wanting to take over all the other trolls tribes in order to spread the voice of rock, because she thinks that rock is the superior music, kind of like your dad. So Poppy and her friends hear about this, and they set out on a journey to unite all the trolls against Queen Barb and the rock trolls. This movie really does use music as a whole, and music as it is portrayed in the world of the trolls, as a microcosm for how much of our culture, and specifically music and the arts, is inherently rooted in Black culture, and how we often erase that narrative in order to uplift white creators and white culture. I'm using white culture here loosely because white culture doesn't really exist beyond saying something like, "Ooh, let me get through there." Not joking here. Most of white culture really is just like an amalgamation of other cultures' practices in a watered down way due to colonialism and assimilation. But Queen Barb is trying to erase all the other trolls' tribes' cultures and assimilate them under the rock trolls culture.
Oh, but by the end of my world tour, we're all gonna have the same vibe. We're all gonna be one nation of trolls under rock.
So when we think of rock music is rooted in Black culture. All of music is rooted in Black culture, but people don't realize that. So I live in Nashville, and Nashville has the National Museum of African American Music. And if you're ever in Nashville, or you're in the area, or you're just looking for a good museum trip, I highly recommend going to this museum, because I knew that a lot of music was rooted in Black culture, specifically like pop music. But when you go through the history of Black music and African American music, you'll start to realize that every single genre of music comes from Black people. I'm not a scholar in it or at all. Like I went to the museum and I've done some research, but I highly recommend going to the museum. It's also super cool because you can get these wristbands that have like QR codes, and you can scan and they can send you a playlist. So I highly recommend. All of that to say, yes, all music is rooted in Black culture, but the way rock has evolved, it has kind of become synonymous with white culture in a way. When you think of what the world considers rock stars, you think of Aerosmith, you think of Bon Jovi, like these white guys with long hair and this very specific vibe, and there's also like that whole joke these old-fashioned, more conservative white guys liking rock music and liking rock music so much that they think it's the superior kind of music, and like a little girl is dumb for liking One Direction or something because One Direction pop music sucks.
I mean, your bleeps and bloops. Beep, 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 boo. Yeah, that's not music.
So it's purposeful in the creator's choices to use rock as the main antagonist in this because of the culture of rock music. And so Queen Barb attempting to assimilate everyone under the rock trolls tribe and their customs is kind of like an overarching metaphor for that of music culture. Taken rock music and people have started to say that it's superior to other music. And then while Poppy is on her journey, she ends up going to the funk trolls, and the funk trolls actually tell Poppy that the pop trolls did the same thing, because Poppy's going around to all the different tribes and is asking them all to join her and the pop trolls against Barb, and like not like this huge battle, but just to like tell her because it's a kids movie, they're not gonna go to war like that. Well, I guess I did in Mulan, but whatever, I'm getting off topic. So she goes to the funk trolls and she explains that Barb and the rock trolls are trying to convert everyone to rock, and the funk trolls go, "It's so interesting you say that, Poppy, because the pop trolls were the first ones to do that." And Poppy's like, "What do you mean? We would never do that. We're all about spreading kindness and love." Some trolls lore, okay? Each of the trolls have there's like this guitar, this godlike guitar, and there are 6 strings on it. And each of those strings represents each of the different types of music that each of the trolls tribes have. And a long time ago, all the trolls of all the different kinds of music lived together in harmony until one day the pop trolls got really power hungry. And so they stole everyone else's strings in order to assimilate everyone to be pop as well. They did the same thing just a long time ago. And that initial incident, eventually all the other trolls banded together against the pop trolls, and that's why they all became separated, because they were afraid that if they started to go together, that would happen again. So they each had to take their own string and then separate, like long before even Poppy was born. So generations ago, Poppy didn't realize that the pop trolls were part of the problem. And this is true for pop music, because a lot of pop music, especially nowadays, is really rooted in Black culture. We hear a lot of hip hop influence and funk influence and a lot of samples from old R&B songs and things like that. So they are really linked right now. And it was really interesting to see a children's movie kind of talk about this in a way that was really comprehensive, because it's really hard to explain that. And how do you explain that to a child? But I think that metaphor is really interesting, because we do see pop has done that, but it's also the world. We have done that because of colonization and assimilation, and music is just a part of that. Through Poppy's realization in this, the funk trolls kind of explain to Poppy that it's not trying to unite us all to be the same. We can all unite, but it's when we accept our differences that's what makes us stronger, because if we all become the same, that's really suppressing a lot of what makes people special.
I can make it right. History's just gonna keep repeating itself until we make everyone realize that we're all the same.
But we're not all the same.
It's why all our strings are different, because they reflect our different music.
Denying our differences is denying the truth of who we are.
To have that come out in 2020, right, in the height of the pandemic, with the Black Lives Matter protests during that time, to see that this children's movie, and talking about it through music, that a lot of what we see as popular culture is rooted in Black culture, and that we have erasing the credit to the Black communities in doing that. To have that all happen during that cultural moment provides this really overarching metaphor and almost like a microcosm for the larger issues that were plaguing America at that time. Is any of this making sense? Maybe I should have just written a script for this, but
let me tell you how it really went down.
So there's also this subplot where Cooper, who is one of the snack pack, he goes on a journey to find his family. He looks different from the other pop trolls, but he's lived with the pop trolls. He kind of just like showed up one day and they adopted him. He goes on his own journey, and Poppy's like, "Cooper, do you want to come with us?" And Cooper's like, "No, I really do have to do this on my own. I do want to find my family, but I have to do it by myself." And so he goes on this a whole journey by himself, and eventually they all reunite, and Cooper realizes he's the like long lost prince of the Funky family, who are the royal family for the funk trolls. He always had felt different from the pop pop trolls because he was adopted by them. But he looks very different. The funk trolls have a very different design from most of the pop trolls. And so he never felt like he fit in, but he was so happy to be a part of that because he had a family, but it wasn't his family per se because it didn't feel like his culture. He always felt out of place. But by being able to be reunited with his family and with the funk trolls, and the funk trolls are all voiced by Black actors, and the music is very distinctly Black and Black culture. It's funk, it's rap, it's all of these things that have come from Black artists. And with all of this, it's a really interesting kind of metaphor for maybe like a young Black adopted child that has been adopted into a white family that kind of does feel out of place because they don't understand that perspective because how would they? They're white people. There are certain things in certain parts of Black culture that a white parent can't understand or teach because of racism being so prevalent and just unconscious and conscious biases. It's a lot that these young Black children that are adopted by white families have to navigate in terms of identity. It's not an unheard of story. And obviously, I can't talk about the specifics of it because I am white and I'm not adopted either. But it is something that I have seen been expressed in other forums online and such. To see Cooper realizing that he has to go on this journey to find himself, and what a lot of adopted children go through that same feeling, and specifically with Black adopted children, trying to find their connection to Black culture. Cooper kind of embodies this and realizing that he does have a place in Black culture regardless of being raised with the pop trolls, and that he was able to find acceptance in the funk tribe. It's really beautiful, and it's really interesting too that all comes to a head when Poppy realizes that the pop trolls had tried to convert everyone as well. It could even be like a mixed child coming to terms with their identity as well and realizing that they kind of fit between two worlds. So it's a really interesting subplot. It was a really great nuanced take, I thought, and a really great way to create that metaphor for children to identify with.
Ooh, Gumdrops. Soundproof and delicious.
So when you analyze the main plot of Trolls 2 in relation to the subplot as well, all while realizing about the time it came out, Trolls 2, Trolls World Tour is just a really great celebration of how our different cultures are what makes us as people, as humans, special, and attempting to erase individuality will erase the beauty of what makes the world a beautiful place to live. In order to move forward as people, we have to acknowledge the past, and we also have to acknowledge the roots of our culture, good and bad, in order to move forward. So we can't do the work of the future without acknowledging and doing the work of the past. So if you hadn't seen Trolls World Tour, hopefully this convinced you to watch it. It's just really fun too. There's a lot of really great cameos and some really great nuanced performances, and I just love how they represent all different types of music with the classical trolls and the country trolls. The country trolls are so fun because they kind of look like horses, and they also are like kind of semi-related to folk trolls. Like, the writers do a really great job of trying to incorporate all different kinds of music and where they branch off and stem from. And it's really heartfelt, and it's really fun, and it really does tackle this idea of what it means to be a person and what it means to navigate society, that everyone is different, how we can start young with accepting differences of all kinds of differences, whether it be personal taste, something as simple as music, but can also be something larger, like how we all look different. And it's just great to see that microcosm and macrocosm represented through the metaphors in this movie. It's really great. Highly recommend. It's a quick watch too. It's fun. The music's great. It looks so good. The trolls always look so soft. Like, I want to touch them. Like, I understand why the Bergens wanted to eat the trolls. I really do. I would never eat a troll. I love the trolls. All of that to say, thank you so much for watching. Again, I know this was a shorter one. I wanted to make it kind of quick and to the point and casual as well. I just really do love this movie, and I do joke that it's probably one of my favorite movies of all time, but it really is. It's just a good, comforting watch, and I do want everyone to watch it because it is a good movie, especially in the context of when it came out. If you don't like it, why? Why don't you like it? What did the trolls do to you? Yes, I know James Corden is in it, but we can, if we just move past that, the movie's great, okay?
Oh, Mr. Dinkles, you're alive. For a minute there, I thought you'd kicked the bucket.
Thank you so much. I love you. Please subscribe, like, la 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 la, whatever. I'll see you in the next video. Let me know what you want to see. Okay, bye-bye.
That day, I was so lost in song. I didn't hear my grandma trying to warn me.